Hello, good evening, Halftime TV viewers and subscribers. Welcome to another episode. And I know we haven't been here in a minute. So, again, thanks for bearing with us. We have a very special guest with us tonight. But before I get into anxious to hear what our guest has to say, and that's only fair. We have a ton load of questions to ask, and I'm pretty sure our guests will be more than able to answer those questions. Before we go any further, big shout out to my sponsors, RS Sports Store and Quicklink Shipping. Anything you need whatsoever shipped into the island, Quicklink Shipping has you covered. And RS Sports Store, get in the game for all your latest sporting jerseys and apparel. Check out RS Sports Store. All right, so without further ado, we have Mr. Dennis Chung, the JFF General Secretary, with us this evening. And unfortunately, you won't be able to go on. Um, he won't be able to go on the screen on the video, but he will be answering our questions nonetheless. All right. So, first and foremost, good evening, Mr. Chung. How are you doing?
Hi, how you doing? I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm okay. It's a pleasure to have you this evening.
Yeah, man, thanks.
Yeah, I'm getting a feed. I'm not sure what's happening in the background, but I'm getting a feed.
I'm hearing you very well.
Okay, good. All right, it's better now. All right, so can you provide us with an update on the situation in Panama right now? We heard there were demonstrations, the game was moved. What exactly is happening?
Yeah, so they're settled in at the new hotel, and they went to training today. I actually spoke to the coach twice today. He said that the girls are in very good spirits. They're very happy to be representing Jamaica. Looking forward to the match tomorrow. Of course, a lot of these girls would have had international experience. It's about 6 or 7 of them, and every one of them is active, which is good. So his only concerns were them gelling together, which he thinks shouldn't be a big problem because some of them have played together before. And also, he was spending the time yesterday and today speaking with the younger ones who really have not been at this level on the international stage. But, he said they're in great spirits, you know, and we hope for the best. I'm sure they'll do well based on the enthusiasm that's there. Of course, we have Marla Sweatman and Chinilu Asha in the team. They're going to bring a lot of experience, especially Chinilu in the middle. So, we expect a good game. One of the good things also is that there's nothing really for the Panama team to look at, you know, and plan around. But we have been able to look at their videos and know how they're playing. So a lot of tactical work that the coach has been doing, um, and um, and also a lot of psychological work, because that is where we think the advantage is going to be once we get those things done.
All right, fair. And I know we're going to get to the girls in a second, and there are a ton load of questions to be asked about the girls. But I want to take a step back because I want us to basically build up to get into that. Um, in general, how would you like if someone were to ask you, how would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on the job that you've done as the general secretary so far? What would be your assessment? And I know we're Jamaican. Self praise is no recommendation. Our parents tell us that all the time. Um, but on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you assess your performance as the
I,
general secretary?
I don't know, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, I've been able to achieve some of the things I want to achieve, like the financial stability. That was always key, because unless you have that in place, then you really can't move an organization forward. So from the organizational point of view, things like getting a tax compliance certificate in place, you know, um, looking at the structure in terms of the people there, improving some salaries that are there, getting sponsors in, Not as much in terms of the amount that we'd like, but still getting sponsors in. This year has been the busiest year ever for JFF in terms of matches. We did have maybe one issue with a visa issue with the boys, under 15 boys going, but outside of that, we really haven't had any issue. And it's primarily because, I mean, there are some internal issues, that we had to get over. But, if it was a different embassy, like an embassy we always deal with, it would have been a little different. Um, but we do have some internal issues that we've had to address. But we've been able to get in a lot of policies in place, our procurement policy, our purchase order system, from a financial point of view, a sexual harassment policy, a safeguarding policy, those things we've been able to get in. So it's really about trying to build the structure. What I find is that, the perception that people have of the Football Federation is somewhat misleading. A lot of people think that, well, no, a lot of people think that, everything is disorganized, and that people are just taking money down there.
And I'm glad you touched on that as well, because my next question, because I had a follow-up question on that, and do you think you're being judged by the sins of your predecessor? Because
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I and
Definitely.
I personally, again, I've had you on the show once before. I watch a lot of videos on YouTube, and there are a lot of YouTubers. They have their assessment of the job you've done. They they have an opinion of the work you've done as JFF General Secretary. And when it comes down to the General Secretary job, all the things that you mentioned just now are basically within the confines of your job, because you mentioned financial stability, you mentioned getting
Yeah.
policies in place, you mentioned getting sexual harassment policies in place as well, which are all commendable, because again, that is your job as a general secretary. But going back to being judged on the sins of your predecessor, how do you get away from that though?
The only way is for you to build the credibility of the organization over time. Because the truth is that football is very emotional, and the football community has been judged in many respects by what happened with FIFA and the fraud that happened there. But after that happened, FIFA shut down a lot of things. I mean, for example, you can't do cash transactions anymore. FIFA comes here and audits us every year. You know, um, we have to submit a report every month to FIFA, on how money is spent. You have to projectize money. Um, we have our annual external audit that's done independently. So you really can't. It's very, very, very difficult for anyone to get their hands on money, unless it's for legitimate purposes. So the perception that people have that people can just take out money. No, it's not like that. I mean, I've worked in many organizations, and in terms of controls and audits, this is maybe one of the tightest one that I've ever worked in. And remember that if they send you money to buy ABC, you cannot use it for DEF,
Okay.
or it's going to get in trouble. So it's very, very, very difficult.
All
Um,
right.
but,
And
but
stick a
yeah,
pin. And
mhm,
I want you to hold that point that you have, because you mentioned that it's difficult for you to get your hands on money. But you spoke a lot about perception as well. And in today's
mhm,
day and age, perception is reality, because that information, for example, that you just told me, it's news to me. It's the first I'm hearing that. And I'm pretty sure it's the first time a lot of my viewers are hearing it as well. Right. So, um, how do you remedy situations like those? Because I'm not sure how the approach goes as it relates to public relations and informing the populace about what's happening at the Jamaica Football Federation and how it actually works. But how do you remedy situations like these where people already form a perception of Dennis Chung and the Jamaica Football Federation?
Yeah, well, we have to one of the things that detracts are the issues. So you'll see like the issues of the girls that come up, you know, it takes away from the message that you're trying to create, you know. So you have to deal with those little things and get those things stabilized, get them out of the way, you know, if you're going to address that. Uh, so it's going to take some time, you know. The truth is that I always do what I think is the right thing to do. I mean, of course, I think that our public relations can improve, and we're looking at that, you know, as to how to do it. But, you know, take, for example, the situation of the girls. You know, a lot of things are being said last week. We recognize that it made no sense for us to say anything last week because it just would have been drowned, you know, because there are a lot of emotions out there. But this week we came out with a statement and things became a little clearer. It's just like with the GoFundMe. Remember when the GoFundMe thing started? At the initial stage, it made no sense for us to say anything. But then when we came out with that statement and said, listen, this is how the funding actually goes. You know, I mean,
But
when I'm spending 4 million US, I mean, to get
I,
a
hold on, hold
team
on, hold on, Mr. Chung. Hold on. And we're gonna get to the 4 million US, but again, we're taking it a step at a time because again, I want to offer as much clarity as possible to the viewers of Halftime TV. Now, you mentioned that the Jamaica Football Federation basically sat back and waited before they said anything. As a communications major, I understand how it works, and I think again, based on my expertise or my experience, that sometimes waiting can actually harm the organization as well. Because, for example, you waiting until 3, 4, 5 days until after the actual event, when everything has been said and done, by the time it gets to Jamaica Football Federation deciding that, hey, it is time for us to make a statement. You mentioned talking early may drown out your messaging, but also talking too late may also result in people not being interested in what you have to say anymore. What are your thoughts on that?
why we ensured as soon as the thing started to die down, we came out with it. Because you're right, you know, if you talk too late and then the 9 day one to take it over, then you know you lose that message. But we've been able to do it. I mean, look at the GoFundMe, for example. We waited a few days and then we came out and said what the situation was, and then people realized that hey, you know, this really don't make any sense. And I was surprised that some people actually thought that 50,000 US could even take us out of the airport. You know, it's just crazy. I mean, 50,000 US is you can't even get us on the plane. You know, um, so it has to do with, you know, I tell you something. When I just started at NSW, I had the same problem. It was a very corrupt organization. um, but you see, the more people come out and say things, and then they realize that they're wrong, the next time you're going to get a little more credibility. So the backlash that we got this time was not as much as the GoFundMe time, right? So people that talked to her saying, hey, you know, let's wait and see what comes out, you know. So we came out with our statement yesterday, and people are like, you know, this really was the situation. In fact, even before that, I'll tell you how I know that it worked from the GoFundMe. I spoke with several senior journalists in sports administration, right? And when I spoke with them while everything was going on, they said, listen, what is being said is rubbish, right? We want to know what the facts are because when you look at it, um, you know, we've been making statements over the period. I mean, that we have in fact paid off all the money since last year. We have, in fact, every time since I've been in, we basically have paid for the per diem at each match. And we've been saying those things, but people don't want to hear that because of emotions.
And
You know,
also it doesn't suit the narrative, right?
it
Um,
doesn't it doesn't suit the narrative. Yeah.
tying into that, and I again, I the questions will continue coming, so don't worry. And for the viewers in there, I hope you're taking notes, right? We we heard you said we have been putting out statements, and I saw the statement from the Jamaica Football Federation. I don't remember if it was yesterday or the day before. I'm not keeping track of the days anymore, so forgive me. But do you think it would actually be better if the JFF had a single point person who did the communications bit as it relates to dealing with the media, dealing with the press? Because now different persons from the Jamaica Football Federation are coming out, they're giving interviews, they're giving statements on different platforms, and then the arguments aren't corroborating, right? So do you think then there should be a point person who is, for example, the media person or the communications person or the press I don't know, I won't say the press officer, but the media person who gives interviews, puts out the statements, deals with questions and interviews like this. What are your thoughts on that? Because then it makes it a little bit more organized, it makes the messaging a little bit more consistent, and consistency in the messaging, it goes a great deal when it relates when we're talking about trust.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that needs to happen, and it's something I've been discussing. But one of the things to consider also, people don't realize that one of the most difficult things to change in an organization is culture. You know, you don't just come in and it changes like that. So we're working on it. I think we're a little more streamlined. No, I mean, a part of the problem too is that the truth is that the football is really made up of people who, in their own rights, are leaders of their own organizations. So how do you deal with that cultural shift? But I think that we've improved. You know, I think that we're better than we were, and that's all that we can ask for. You know, I know that that when we came up with that thing, I think it was 2 days ago. We just speak to the facts, right? And we think that the facts are good enough for us. We don't get into this thing about this criticism publicly. We just respond to questions, and also remember to, with this issue that we're just dealing with. People say, boy, why doesn't JFF come out and say something? Or even with when with the issue happened with Lauren, the coach, why doesn't the JFF come out and say something? I tell people all the while, when someone in the media comments, it doesn't have consequences. When I comment, it has consequences because it might have legal implications based on contracts. So I can't just come out and say something. Many times I have to respond to something that is said to ensure I'm not the first one to breach something. Right. So as I said, when I say something that has consequences, someone can come out and say something today, and as long as it doesn't defame somebody, they're fine. And next week they say something else. But once I say something, it will have consequences one way or the other. And I have to be very cognizant of that.
All right, fair. And speaking of something that was said by someone, Xavier Gilbert, the interim coach, mentioned a few nights ago in an interview with TBJ that he's still owed. Is that from the same portion as the Reggae Girls, or are there other monies outstanding for the coaching team?
I would have to check on that, but I know that everyone would have fallen in the same category of the amount of money that was outstanding for us to get from FIFA based on what paperwork needs to be done. Um, but as far as I know, everyone was paid up. So I would have to check on that.
Okay. All right, fair enough. And how much money exactly is owed to the Jamaica Football Federation from FIFA or by FIFA?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get into that. Let us just say it is sufficient to cover. But I really wouldn't want to get into the exact amount, but it is sufficient to cover everything, you know.
All right, all right. Fair enough, fair enough. Another question surrounding the same Jamaica Football Federation and the World Cup quest. There are figures floating around. We're hearing 4 million, we're hearing 3 million, we're hearing 2.5 million. We want to close that question tonight. How much exactly was spent on the World Cup campaign?
Yeah, I don't know where the floating around comes from. Let me tell you something. People choose to interpret sometimes, because one of the things I've always said is I said that since I was there in November, that was my view, I have spent $2 million. Remember, the campaign started before.
Right?
Huh?
US dollars. So $2
million.
Right,
US dollars, right? So I have spent $2 million since I have been there in November. And that's what I've always said. And that's where the 2 million comes from. Before that, though, there was a lot more money, over $1 million US spent, which is why the president could say, we've spent $3 to $4 million, So it's not that there are figures floating around that are saying the same thing. It's just that people don't listen to what is said. So like when I said it once I was there. I've been there from November.
Yeah.
The campaign started 2 years before that. You know what I mean? So, that's what people, people just hold on to something and they run with it. But we've spent over $3 million US dollars. In terms of the exact amount, I don't have it because, money is fungible and, things intertwine. But certainly a lot of money has been spent, over $3 million. Which is why I used the whole thing of the $2 million when I was referring to the argument about the GoFundMe to say, well, put 50,000 US over 2 million US, and then you have an idea of what people talking about when they say, oh, GoFundMe has funded everybody to the World Cup. Really? The airfare alone from Amsterdam to Australia was 370,000 US dollars. That's the airfare alone.
And that's business class or economy?
That's business class.
Okay.
But that's just one way from Amsterdam to Australia. What I'm saying? Not talking about coming back.
Yeah.
So
that $50,000 couldn't even take them to Australia.
That's what I tell you. It couldn't get me on the plane.
Oh, okay. All right. And again, it's good that we have an opportunity to ask all these questions and actually to get all these answers, right? And I know I have the luxury of speaking to you or interviewing you, and I have a few of my viewers on here as well who are taking note of all the information that you're spilling out. But for those who aren't on Halftime TV tonight and won't get the chance to watch this video, for example, there is the Access to Information Act 2002. Does the JFF fall under this? If someone were to request information, I know JFF is not necessarily a public government entity, but are they covered under the Access to Information?
The ATI, no, the ATI relates to public bodies.
Okay.
Right. JFF is a private organization.
Okay, yeah. So basically, if someone from the JFF doesn't say it, then the public won't have access to it because it's a private entity.
Yeah, well, we actually do publish our audited reports every year.
And they're on the website as well, the Jamaica Football Federation website?
Yeah. So we publish every year. And when I actually went to Congress last year, I actually sent out a copy of my annual report because it was digital to all media. And then people would call me, oh, you have a copy of the Constitution. I say, you never read the report that I sent you. Because the Constitution, the full Constitution that we pass is in the appendix.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
And for the viewers on here, we'll post that we'll post a link to that document on the community channel. So you can have access to it, ease of access rather, because I don't want to say access because everyone has access to it these days. You have the internet, you have your cell phone.
And it's important to note, you know, that one of the ways we've improved the communication, you'd have seen our new website that we put in place, right? JFF.football, where you can actually buy your tickets through the website also for the games. You'd have seen the significant increase in social media communication, you know, on all our platforms. You know, we actually do also have press conference that updates people on where we are. You know, so we make an attempt, but the truth is that information is out there, you know, but a lot of people don't really take the information and analyze it and really digest it, you know. What they want is a soundbite.
Okay, fair enough. And one of our avid viewers and subscribers has a question posted in the comment section. It's pinned on the screen as well. He's asking Mr. Dennis Chung, what was the source of the funds for the playing fair? Was it sourced via FIFA or from private entities?
Oh, it's sourced from FIFA, man.
Okay.
So as I said, 75% of the funding that we get is from FIFA. Right? The next biggest donation, our sponsor is Adidas.
Okay. And Adidas is on board until 2026, correct?
Yeah. Okay. And then followed by the money from the Bob Marley Foundation, followed by corporate sponsors, followed by the Regulars Foundation, and followed by the government in terms of overall funding. In terms of money directly to the campaign, it would be Reggae Girls Foundation, then Reggae Girls Foundation. So 75% of money is from FIFA. You know, that's where we get most of our funds from.
Okay, fair enough. So it's safe to say then 75% of the Reggae Girls preparation and them getting to the World Cup was funded by FIFA, correct?
Yes, definitely, yes.
Okay. All right, big up Coaches Desk in the comment section. Big up Coaches Desk. It's a pleasure to have you on here as well. All right, so continuing, and we're not dwelling on anything. We just want to continue with the conversation. So the Reggae Girls, they've had an uphill task, if we're to be honest with ourselves. 2008, 2016, there is an obvious backdrop with their relationship with the JFF. What are your thoughts or your assessment of how they're operating now, or how they're handling the situation, taking into consideration as well the history of the girls, the Jamaica Reggae Girls program, and the Jamaica Football Federation? Remember, it was disbanded 2008, 2016 as well, and then against all odds, they set the world on fire.
Well, you know, I mean, let me answer it this way. I don't get into the whole thing about, you know, how people feel about things. I'm a numbers man, and I deal with, you know, we have a contract and there's a grievance procedure and we work it out. The other thing I don't get into, which I find a lot of people love to get into, is letting history affect how they think today. You know, if you were to do that, then you realize that there'll be no forgiveness. In fact, Jesus wouldn't forgive anybody because they crucified him. So then if he was to go into history, he would say, you know what, forget the world. You know? So when people said to me, you know, what happened in 2019? What happened in 2016? I'm like, guys, you know, what happened in 2019 happened in 2019.
Yeah, but also, Mr. Chung, you have to be cognizant of the lingering
yeah, you know, I am, but why are we?
If someone did you wrong in the past, right? If someone did you wrong in the past, and you are trying, or you're making every effort to mend those relations, and it seems or it feels as if you're going in the same direction, you're definitely going to take a step back regardless, right? So
No, no. If you're trying to mend it, right? No,
yeah,
if you are using your present your history to determine your present action today, then that is what I'm talking about, and that is what a lot of people like to dwell on, and therefore you realize you're justifying the war between Hamas and Israel because a lot of what is happening now is based on your emotions, right? So therefore, if we can't say that, boy, it is okay for us to act this way, you know, personally because someone wronged us before, right? And I don't know what the history is. I'm just saying that, and at the same time, tell someone that they shouldn't do that, So we're justifying wars if we say that, and we justifying domestic killing. You know what I mean? If you're doing that.
Well, there is a difference between justification and actually understanding, because you can actually understand the standpoint that the person is coming from, but that's not a justification.
Yeah, man, you can understand it, But what I'm saying is that what we need to do,
we're not justifying the behavior of either parties, but that's why I'm asking what's your assessment of the situation, because I heard what the girls said. I saw the statement, and again, because we don't have enough information from the Jamaica Football Federation, we hear something this minute, and then we hear something contrary.
So the statement that came out, right? You're talking about now. There are three things on it, and I know that there are three things, right? Number one, the payment, which we addressed that. Number two, saying that I need to know the name of the staff before I'm available, which, I don't know where it happens, right? And number three, the travel, which we said we always the travel according to the contract. There's a contractual agreement we travel. So those are the three things. There is nothing else, but people, the rhetoric around it was, boy, that's how we always treat them. Or when you say that the issue is, I can say to you, for example, that, listen, you do me wrong. But if I say to you that you do me wrong, then the next logical question from that is, okay, so what specifically was wrong? But people don't listen to that. People don't want to hear that. I mean, someone just say, boy, you never do right by me, and they just take it and run with it instead of asking, what is it, right? So it creates a lot of emotions I don't want to get into, because for me, for me, I don't want to expend my energy on that, right? I want to know that I'm working on something, that I'm always moving forward with it, right? So the situation as is for me is that, hey, we need to resolve it. There's a procedure in the contract that says that if there's a grievance, these are the steps that we must take. Let's take those steps and do it. And when people report, people say, oh, you suspend the players. No. What we said is that we suspended the selection process of the players. That's different. We suspended the selection. So we said to them, listen, we're going to not deal with the selection. No, we're going to suspend the selection now, right? Until we go through the grievance procedure. Right? But then people come on, oh, you suspend the selection. I'm like,
it's not that far off, though. It's skewed, but it's not that far off.
No, but there's a very there's a very stark difference, right? Because suspending someone is saying, hey, you are totally out. Suspending an action, read the person, means the person is still in, but I just suspend the action, right? So there's a big difference. It sounds subtle, but there's a big difference, and that's why we chose that very carefully, because our thing is that we don't want to get into any differences with anybody. The only thing for me right now, my main focus now is the girls that are in Panama. And I've been spending a lot of time talking to the coach, finding out what's happening, just to make sure that they're okay. That's my main focus right now, because for me, the main focus for me is winning, getting a good result on Wednesday, getting a good result on Sunday, organizing the game on Sunday. That for me is the main thing. And, is where what I think we should be talking about. We should be talking about, the girls, what's happening with them, how we're going to get this good result out,
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I agree. I agree, but I can't get past the suspension part because again, and coaches just mentioned it, and I spoke about it a little bit earlier in our show, because I mentioned when there are different communications coming out of the Jamaica Football Federation, the public then gets confused because Rudolph Speed on Coaches Desk channel a couple of nights ago mentioned that the girls were actually suspended. So which is it? Is Rudolph Speed lying, or he doesn't understand, or has he
No,
missed?
no. He's not lying, but there's just that difference, that subtle difference, right?
Yeah,
So,
but he would have understood that difference, though. So it's not like me as a regular person, because he's actually on the inside, so he would have understood the difference.
well, I don't know. I mean, maybe it was just said like that, right? But I'm saying that, what we put out there, and what we communicated is the suspension of the selection. And I don't want to get into, what one person say or whatever, but, because when we're talking, all of us sometimes, we say something, and sometimes we mean something else. But I'm just making it clear, what it actually is, because then people come up with this, the comments, there's this big divide, and no, I'm not into that. For me, it's just okay, fine. And maybe because I'm a black and white person, okay, fine. You're not available. These are the things we need to work through. Hey, we have the national senior women's team in Panama now, and they're playing, and we're going to be supporting them. And trying to get the result, because at the end of the day, the most important thing is the results. That's why we're putting all these resources into it. To get the results that we need. So that we can move up in ranking, so that we can get to the Gold Cup. That's what we want to do. So I'm very excited about what's going to happen tomorrow, and to see how these girls actually come together.
All right, fair, and we're looking forward to seeing them in action as well. Now, back to the list of questions that I had, and the viewers, thank you so very much for sending in the questions that you sent in earlier on today and yesterday, as well as for those in the comment section sending those questions as well. We'll try to ask as much of those questions as possible. All right, so going back to what we had in store here. So based on reports, there are question marks both internally and externally around your tenure as the cries grow louder. Are you feeling the pressure of the job right now, and under what circumstances would you consider resigning from the current post?
I mean, it's a lot. The job is a lot. I can say this. I mean, but I ride my bicycle, so I get my exercise in. In terms of tenure, I mean, I haven't really given it any thought, but my tenure was never, and at the start, it was never going to be a long-term thing. I've always said that. It was never going to be long-term. So, we'll see. But it's not something I think about. The contract is a 3-year contract. I've said from the start, I don't think I'm going to be there for 3 years. Definitely not, because that was never my intention. I just have a checklist of things, I'd like to do. And, once that is in place, then, I don't know. I mean, there are some other things that I'd love to do, so it's not a long-term thing. Definitely not.
Not a long term. So, and you're what? November to now time is moving so fast. So almost a year, little over a year, eh?
Well, it's almost a year. It feel like 5.
All right. So Ricardo Baggio wants to know about the advance money. Can you shed some light on that?
About the advance money?
Yeah. The money that we got in advance. Because we were told that there was some money owed because we received an advance. So I'm assuming that's what Ricardo is alluding to.
Yeah, yeah, but that was really to assist us with the traveling. I spoke to that.
Okay. So
Yeah.
So based on, okay, so I think I'm getting it now. So
Yeah.
that advance money that you got, that's basically a part of the money that we owe right now.
Yeah, but they were always going to reimburse that money, you know. So what happened is that we would have the plan is that, you know, all MAs, you know, fund it and then they reimburse it. You know, so that's what it is. And then there's a balance on the prize money competitions we were supposed to receive. And as I said, you know, we met with FIFA yesterday and they agreed that, hey, before they finish all the paperwork and everything, they're just going to advance us some money and we're just going to pay off what's owed. You know, so we hope to wrap that up this week.
All right.
And then there'll still be something left for us, but we'll wait on that.
Okay, we'll see, and I trust the public will be kept informed on everything that's happening. Now, the players, for the first time in the history of the Female World Cup, they received a sufficient sum, some may say. However, for fans of Jamaican football, we were made aware, or we were told that tax documents that were supposed to be sent in by the Jamaica Football Federation were not.
That's rubbish. That's rubbish. That's rubbish.
All right, so provide some clarity on that. I'm glad you said that's rubbish, and please
so
clarify. Put it out of discussion. Right?
Yeah. So that's rubbish. That's rubbish. And some people came to me with that, and I'm like,
yeah,
you know, I don't know where people get that information. So and it was a rhetoric that was coming from some circles that's supposed to be intelligent.
Yeah. So how does it work though? How does it work? Because I know different countries that you're paying, they would have taken their little bit out of it for
yeah. So all countries have withholding tax, including Jamaica. Remember when Usain Bolt went to UK and they withheld some tax from him?
I don't remember, but okay.
Yeah. So, and he was saying, boy, the tax rate is high, which was about the same thing like in Australia, about 45%. So what happened is that when we went, we had the option of allowing FIFA to do all our competitions and everything for us. So I said, okay, FIFA, do this for us, right? We're not going to get into all that. So someone actually sent me an email and saying, boy, you know, you JFF could have done this application and thing. You know, thankfully there was an email from FIFA because we were constantly in communication that said that, listen, we have tried on many occasions to get an exemption from Australia, but we were not successful. But we got it from New Zealand. So we didn't handle anything at all to do with that. Everything was handled by them. And then they did the computations, sent it to us. They gave us all the payments, net of the tax. And within 2 days, we paid it over to the girls. Right? So we didn't do anything with the computations. Right? So we were just, FIFA handled this for us because taxation is a complex thing. Right? And they had the machinery to do it. We didn't have the machinery to do it. But, you know, it's funny
was there a document to be sent that the Jamaica Football Federation didn't send? Because again, we keep hearing these things, and we can only, if there isn't anything coming from the other side, we can only believe what we're hearing.
We all the documents. What we did is we worked through FIFA, and they would say, "Can you send this information to us?" So we sent them all the information that they asked for. Right,
and the documents were all sent on time.
Yeah, man, that is how we work today. They say, send this to us, and we send it. They did the application for the exemption, and they tried many times. They didn't get it in Australia, but they got it in New Zealand. So if matches were played in New Zealand, for example, there would have been no tax, right? And what a lot of people didn't do is read the tax code. I went through the tax code that was sent to us, right? And it specifically stated how the thing must happen. And it specifically stated, for example, that where exemption was given. Now, if Australia is doing something, think about it. You believe that they're going to give Jamaica an exemption and not give somebody else? You know, FIFA, they're working through FIFA, right? So I read everything. I read all the tax code and everything, and pretty much, you know, just to make sure that, you know, what was being done, the computation was accurate. And I saw it that, you know, we had to provide them, for example, the contracts of the players. And then they would use that and do all of the computation. So it was a very complex thing, right? And, you know, as I said, it was out of our hands. We took the option that we want you to do this because we wouldn't want to take that on and then something go wrong with the computation. They had the expertise. So this argument that there was something that we should have done to apply for exemption, I don't know where that comes from. You know, I mean, if you have a tax treaty with a country, right, then you get a different tax treatment. So New Zealanders, for example, might have more than likely as a tax treaty with Australia, and they would maybe not pay any tax in Australia. But remember this, and this is what a lot of people don't understand. You will pay some tax, right? So even countries that Jamaica has a tax treaty with, right? You might not pay any tax in the country that you have the treaty with, but when you come to Jamaica, you have to declare it. And you have to pay tax. So what people do is they might say, well, you know, and I've gone through a lot of these treaties in various transactions. They might say, well, I have a tax treaty with country A. The tax rate in country A is 40%. The tax rate in Jamaica is 20%, right? I'm going to take my income and pay my tax in Jamaica. If it was the other way around, you might say, let me pay my tax in that country, right? And then when it comes here, then you can declare that you've paid X amount of taxes there. So people use it as a planning mechanism, but you can't escape it. You're not going to escape taxation. You're going to pay it in one country or the other.
So having been taxed in Australia, were the girls subject to tax in Jamaica as well when they returned?
No. I mean, obviously, everyone would have taxation is a personal thingy. So everyone, everyone who their taxes taken out, they have the ability to go and file returns with Australia, right? Or they have the ability, and you should file your returns every year, right? So when you get your money, what you do is at the end of the year, you file your returns, right? And you show all the documentation of what you've paid and tax. And then the tax authority, depending on the country, I don't know how they operate between Jamaica and Australia, will then make a ruling on it, you know, and determine if you have tax to pay or if you don't have tax to pay. But, you know, tax is a complex thing, you know. So when someone said that, hey, there's a document you could have filed, you know, the person who said it to me, I just sent them the tax code and the email from FIFA. And I said, here, look at this. I didn't hear anything back from them.
And again, thanks for providing some clarity on that, because there is a lot of confusion around. But we have a question pinned to the screen. What is the reason for the integrity checks being done by FIFA that was mentioned on HalftimeTv?
The integrity checks?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. You mean in terms of to get the reimbursement?
Yeah, I would assume that.
Yeah. So when I say integrity checks, you know, it's just that, you know, when you're going through an accounting process, right? I mean, because I'm an accountant, I speak like this. When you're going through a process of reconciling something, you check the integrity of the numbers and the documentation. And that's all I mean, right? It's just the integrity of the number, which means the authenticity. That's what I'm talking about. Just to make sure that you have all the documents in a row, lined up and everything. And you say, okay, fine, this is it. This is the amount that is outstanding. So those checks are things, reconciliations that people have to do. And remember that they're doing it for maybe 30 countries.
Okay. I don't want to go too much into the technical stuff because again, a lot of the viewers on here, they just want the simple yes or no answers. They just want to know. You said the girls have been paid in full. That's what you said? No? Yes?
No, remember I said that there's an amount that because of the balance that's remaining has not been paid yet.
And
right?
how much is the balance remaining?
Well, in terms of what we received, there was a difference between what we received and the prize money that was declared of about $600,000, right?
Okay, so I guess that's the 600,000 that the
right. So we have reconciled all of that with
US dollars.
US, right. So we've determined how much is left on it to be paid to them, and we're getting that money, and we're going to just pay that out.
Do we have a timeline on this?
Yeah, man, I said that I'm hoping to reconcile all of that this week, and as soon as we get it, we're going to just pay it out right away.
All right, so the girls should be paid in full by the end of the week. They've received their portion of the money.
Once you receive the money that we're working with, we're going to just pay it out, yes. So okay. I'm hoping that we get it by at least Thursday, the latest, so that we can process it Friday and just send it out.
All right, fair enough. And I hope we don't see anything on the news again or on
no man, and remember, that is the only thing. Remember, even the per diem for the Olympic qualifiers, we had paid that already,
The Olympic qualifier against Canada.
Yeah, that was paid.
Oh, okay.
So we have paid up to all of those things. So, there's really nothing apart from that. There's nothing else left.
Okay, so the advance that we received from FIFA, that would have come out of the total monies that we would have received, no?
Well, you could look at it that way. Yes, you could look at it that way. But basically, or you could look at it from the point of view that what they did is advance to travel that, would have applied for the reimbursement for.
Okay, so okay, all right, fair enough. So how it would have worked under normal circumstances, you would have paid for the travel and then you would have applied for reimbursement.
Right.
Oh, okay. So they basically just gave you the money to pay for your travels in advance. All right. And how much was that again? You said 360 something thousand one way?
Yeah, one way. How much
was the total? How much
total amount was a little over 500,000.
A little over 500,000 US dollars, and this is to travel to the World Cup and back.
You realize how much money we're talking about?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of zeros involved, and I hope the viewers are writing down these numbers so they can hold you to it.
Right? Which is why when we say it's X amount of money to go watch a match, don't complain, just compete.
And I'm gonna speak about that as well, the X amount of money, because I spoke to a couple members close to the football when they visited Canada, and because I don't want to misquote anybody, let me go down here because I have it here. They mentioned, based on conversations with individuals I had, they indicated that you stated in essence that prior to the Jamaica-Canada game in Jamaica, that you prefer 1,000 fans being at the national stadium at $5,000 per person rather than 5,000 fans being there because it's easier to manage, and the easier to manage is the important part. Can you shed some light on that? And I heard it from multiple persons.
So I was making that comment in response to someone who was saying, "Why don't you just reduce the price and fill up the stadium?" Right? And I was making that comment against the backdrop that I was saying to them, "Listen, the stadium is not free." And I don't get a concession from the government on it.
But right? the game that's coming up against Guatemala, the prices are actually reduced though, because grandson is $3,000. So what's the difference now?
So we reduce the price primarily and I don't want to really get into the reasons, but look at it this way. They primarily because of the issue we had, right? So there was a lot of uncertainty last week, right? We have a new team in place, and we want to say to people, listen, come out and watch this team, right? The team that's there. So, I mean, there are considerations from a commercial point of view, and also we thought that, we would want to give this concession to the public. That was the argument around it. So it's really to get people out, given the situation that occurred, wanted to get some people out. So we say, let's just reduce it for this one. The boys are playing next month, and the boys are doing well, and I can tell you the prices are going back up to what it was, right? Because the truth is that the prices that we charge in September were the same prices from 3 years ago.
Yeah,
right?
but look at it this, and you said earlier that you are a numbers man. So why not reduce the cost to get more bodies into the national stadium?
Because you're not necessarily going to get the bodies. I can guarantee you, right? Because let me tell you something.
Yeah.
You see when people talk about look at the CONCACAF games, and it's not just Jamaica. Look at when you're looking at the CONCACAF games in the Caribbean, you realize how empty the stadiums are. When you're looking at them, when you move it to Central America or the US, you realize how full the stadiums are.
But that says a lot about other factors though, because, and again, I'll speak to when the Reggae Girls were in Canada, and
Yeah.
they mentioned the marketing approach of the Canadian Football Federation, or the Canadian Football Association. Everywhere the girls went, there were flyers of the game, right? They walked around the city, there were flyers of the game everywhere. Small flyers in the elevator. They were everywhere.
Listen, the game was sold out before they got there.
That's what was told. That's what was told.
So having the flyers around them don't matter because the game was sold out already.
That was there before them getting there. So that's what I'm saying. So people were actually aware of everything that was happening. There were avenues for people to familiarize themselves with the players, etc., and that sort of thing. So
yeah, but let me tell you something.
Far beyond just the football and the attractive.
But let me tell you something. Our culture, right? People are aware of the games. Well, a lot of people are aware, right? But I guarantee you that when we have a match, people will call you and say, boy, can I get a ticket? Can I get a ticket? Right? That's just a culture that we have in the region. You understand what I'm saying? That's a culture that we have. And I would try to encourage people come out. And the truth is that, I mean, a lot of people know about the matches, right? We put it out. I mean, even I'm not just talking about the September ones, right? I mean, previous matches we had. All right, let's go back to 1998, right? Even in 1998, it's just the last few matches when people realized we were going to World Cup or had the possibility that the stadium was packed, Because I used to go to all of the matches, And I can tell you, before the last few matches, it wasn't packed. That's just how we are.
I think we need to do better as it comes down to, as it relates to marketing of the football, because we can't just assume that football is only played on the field of play, and because Leon Bailey or because Bonnie Shaw is going to be playing, people are just going to up and come out. And even so, looking at especially the Reggae Girls game the other day, the numbers, $5,000. I think it was $7,000 for VIP, $5,000 for grandstand. That's a lot of money. So someone who doesn't know much about the Reggae Girls, and this should have been a homecoming, in my opinion, for the Reggae Girls. Just historic feat at the World Cup, coming back home. It should be coming home to enthusiastic fans at the National Stadium. So I think the JFF got that one wrong, and that's my opinion. I think the prices could have been a little bit more lenient, especially since off the field there wasn't much marketing done for the game. So a couple adverts here and there on Twitter. There was promotion, obviously, but outside of that, nothing. So it's my opinion. You can share your views on it, but I just think
I think there was a lot of marketing. I mean, in terms of the amount of ads that were ran a lot of ads.
That's my point. So the days of just putting out ads and that sort of, like, we have so many people in Jamaica right now who are so proud of what the Reggae Girls did and would have been interested in coming to the National Stadium to witness them had the prices been a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, what's the empirical basis on which you say that?
No, because I've heard a number of complaints, and even the girls were complaining.
Yeah,
so I think.
But you hear the complaints from your circle. But remember, I mean,
not my circle. I won't say my circle. I won't say my circle, because again, when I went to BMO and when I went to meet with the Reggae Girls, it was a general consensus for the most part, because even they thought the prices were a little bit exorbitant. So
and I hear that, but our experience shows us that is not necessarily so, and that's what we need to go on.
Even get a halftime show, Mr. Chung. Get a halftime show. Get one of them entertainers, like Issa Manning Cup final or something of the sort.
All right. So that's another thing. Hold on. Yeah, but that's another thing people don't understand, right? Number one, right? So, for example, I had got a singer to do the national anthem at one of them, and they said, and CONCACAF said, no, the person can't do it. Because remember, the matches are televised.
Yeah.
So they go based on a strict timeline. So all of those things have to be cleared, right? And sometimes you just can't do it. You want to do it, but sometimes you just can't do it. And that's what people don't understand. A lot of people say, "Boy, you can do so and so," but there are a lot of things that go behind it. So the match, I mean, when we say a match starts 6 o'clock. It have to start at 6 o'clock, right? Because if it don't start at 6 o'clock, TV get interrupted, sponsors get set back, right? And if we are a minute late coming out of the dressing room, we get fined.
Yeah, I know that bit. So but, you said there's a lot of things that
remember in '98 when we used to have these big halftime shows and thing, and the match would start at 10 minutes later and thing. That can't happen. The thing is, because of the commercial thing and the television rights and all of that, thing is very, very, very strict. People don't know what goes behind the scenes in a match planning, Yeah. You start planning from weeks before, and everything has to be on spot, or else it's a fine.
So, all these that you mentioned, all these constraints, all these challenges, given if you had the opportunity to do it your way, how would you have approached that game? Not considering all those restrictions or whatnot. How would you have approached that game, the Jamaica-Canada game at the National Stadium? Because I thought that was an opportunity. I thought it was an opportunity missed, if I'm to be honest with you, by the Jamaica Football Federation. Because
all right. So let me tell you something. When you see those things, don't assume that attempts were not made.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking what would you have done? Like giving your way.
No, I would have loved to have a homecoming situation, but again, remember it was a televised match. Remember also that the administration doesn't make the decisions because there are technical decisions that goes into it. So even though we have an idea that, hey, this is what we'd love to do, it's very strict. So for example, even, when we lead up to the game, there are certain things from an administrative point we say, boy, we want to do this. So we'd love to do this for the girls or the boys or something. But then you have to deal with the coach, and the coach said, boy, this can't happen at this time. I have a 1 hour here and I want them to rest, and then you talk about after now. So you say, can I do this thing after? Some of them have to go back to matches, to games, right? Because remember, most of them are overseas. But the other thing is that if I say I'm going to keep them an extra night to do something, you know what the hotel cost is for that night? You understand? Is a lot of money you're talking about. So there are a lot of things behind it. So I can't just say I'm going to spend an extra night, right? Because I might end up spending an extra $1 million, a million something. So the things are very, very tightly planned, right? And it's not up to me. I mean, we're leading up to a match. The decision is not mine as to how the players move. It's a coach.
Right.
On match day, I mean, if it's a friendly game, I have more leeway, right? Because we control it. If it's a CONCACAF game, it's very strict.
But so pre-game and post-game, those are off the table as well?
Pre-game, no, we might be able to do something pre-game, but the truth is that a lot of people don't come to the matches until late, right? Until just about the match to start. Post-game, we might be able to do something again, but you have a lot of people that leave. The most ideal time to do something like a show is halftime.
Yeah, but if halftime doesn't permit, though, we have to adjust, no? We have to think in the moment and make something happen. So I think if we really wanted it to happen, it would have happened, and that's my take.
Yeah, but it's not as easy as that. I can tell you that, right? Because if you do something pre or post, you want the players there, right?
Yeah.
Pre, you're not going to really get them there.
No, but post game,
right?
you stand a better chance.
Post, you could, but then you might not. You know what I mean? So it's something we can look at. It's something we can look at, definitely, right? But it's not. It's not that easy, to be honest with you. And so there's a lot of logistics. For example, I'll give you just one thing, right? When we're thinking about a match, for example, like when we're doing the under 17, right? One of the things we have to think about is the time that we start. Number one, you don't want it too hot. But number two, you don't want it to go too much into the night, right? Because guess what? I get charged per hour for when the light is on.
Yeah, but
so I just give you an example of semantics.
Yeah, I understand the semantics.
That wouldn't do it, but
and you mentioned the cost of staying at the resort an additional night, and you mentioned the cost of keeping the lights on. But I still think 30 minutes after the game to honor the girls again.
Oh yeah.
I don't think that's a big deal, and I don't think we can get burdened too much for that, right? And I will constantly be alluding to the Canada game, because after the Canadian team qualified, and we were at the BMO for almost 2 hours after the game, where the reggae girls they were greeting everyone, while the Canadian team they were celebrating the Canadian press, they were celebrating the Canadian girls. So there were so many different stakeholders showing their appreciation that the Canadian females had qualified for the Olympics, and it brought us back, because I was there with a few members of the Jamaican delegation as well, and I was thinking, like, why didn't we do something similar to this at the national stadium? Because it was there for the taking. If we're to be frank, it was there. Everyone was anticipating the girls coming home, and I think we let it slip between our fingers. But we won't dwell on that. I think we've spent too much time on that anyway. Getting back to the meat of the matter, can you shed some light on the Lon Donaldson situation? I think the precedent of punishing success is a slippery slope, and as of now, this is the summation that a lot of Jamaican fans have made.
So I really am not going to comment on that one. You know, I'm not going to comment on that one. You know,
is there a reason you don't want to comment on it? No.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that, to be honest with you. You know, there are a lot of factors that go into decisions when decisions are made. You know what I mean? And I don't think I should discuss that sort of thing. I mean, what I'll say is that things are not always, you know, what is said is not necessarily that's how it is, you know. And that's what I would say about that. But it's not really something I want to get back into, to be honest with you.
Which I understand. But was this because you mentioned that not everything that we see is as it is. A lot of what was said isn't as it is as well. Was it a decision that was made short term, or was it something that was made over longer term discussions internally? You don't have to go into the details or the intricacies. Just give us an idea of how that decision was.
No, I mean we're not going to make a off the cuff decision.
Yeah,
you know, there wasn't an off the cuff decision. That's what I would say. You know, and of course there's always a lot of consideration on decisions that are made. You know, I mean, and I mean, what I'll just say is that, you know, Lon did make a very good contribution. You know, yeah.
Yeah, I can agree with you on that. How far along is the process of getting a new coach? Because you said it's not an off the cuff decision.
Yeah.
So I expect the replacement.
So I made the point earlier to someone about Xavier that, you know, we made a decision that, you know, Xavier has been around for a long time, right? The program for a long time, for a while, and he has done well. I mean, if you look at the teams that he has coached, you know, the female teams, and he's now at Arnett Gardens, you know, and Xavier does well. And we thought to ourselves, you know, after going through the process, because we had quite a number of people that applied internationally, that we should just take the time and get the right fit, get the right person. And in the meantime, you know, it could be Xavier. I mean, who knows? You know, but let's go through the process. And Xavier was there. Xavier, you know, I really, really was appreciative of the fact that Xavier, you know, just jumped on right away. And, you know, he has taken on the mantle. He was very instrumental in putting together this squad, along with an international scout. And as we say, you know, he has done well. You know, why not, you know, just use him in the head coach position for these games, right? He knows the team. He has been around it for a while, you know, so it makes no sense rushing and getting someone new who is unfamiliar with the team in a matter of 2 weeks. You know, might not get the same synergy, you know, so, you know, and I really, really appreciate how Xavier has jumped on and worked, you know, everybody has worked, you know, there are about 5 people who have come over, in terms of staff from the team that was there before. 4 other persons who had offered contracts and they said they're not available. You know, so this narrative that's out there, oh, no contracts were renewed. I really don't know where that came from. You know, because if they're saying that, but at the same, looks at the logic, they're saying no contracts were renewed. But guess what? Xavier is still there. Xavier is one, right? The manager is still there, right? The equipment person is still there. The doctor is still there. The masseuse is still there, right? So that's 5. 4 other persons were offered, and they said they don't want to be in it for October because they weren't available. You know,
okay. So it's safe to say then, for the foreseeable future, Xavier is the coach.
well, I mean, I can't say more than no, you know, and, you know, and towards the end of the week, so I mean, that's the foreseeable future for me. So, you know, but the truth is that the decision is not mine. It's really the technical committee that looks at it, right? And as I said, Xavier might apply for the job. I don't know. I don't know that that hasn't happened. You know, if he has, then you know he gets a consideration like everybody else.
When will the public find out who the Reggae Girls head coach will be?
No, but the public don't know that regular head coach is Xavier.
No, but they still said they're doing a number of interviews. I
Yes.
heard
So,
that
so as I told you, I don't know yet, right? I
okay.
mean, as I said, it could be him. I don't know. What I know now is that we have 2 games this week, right?
Yeah.
And we have a game next month.
And you don't have a timeline to say, okay, by this
No,
time
no,
we will know
no,
for sure. Okay.
no.
All right, going back to the Reggae Girls, do you think they're being unreasonable?
If I think they're being unreasonable,
Yeah.
no, that's not for me to say. I mean,
Well, I want to hear your opinion of the situation.
I think if someone has a grievance, then you know they have a grievance. If they have a gross have one, I'm not going to comment on someone being unreasonable. I just know that confronted with a situation, this is how I need to deal with it. You know, but I, you know, somebody being unreasonable, you know, I never even thought about that, to be honest with you. I have a situation in front of me, and I'm just going to deal with that situation. You know, and everyone has a right to feel however they want to feel about anything and act how they want to act. You know, the only thing that you have to do when you're acting how you want to act, whether it's with breaking the law or something, you know, generally, is consequence. You know, and right now,
The consequence is suspension for now.
the consequence for me right now is that we have a new team playing. You know, and for
But
that's what I'm focusing on.
that's not necessarily a consequence for the girls, though.
No,
Because
I'm talking about my consequence right now.
okay.
You know, that's
All
what
right.
I'm focusing on right now because I mean tomorrow is a game I'm looking forward to.
All right. I'm looking forward to it as well. You mentioned there's a grievance and the correct avenues were not explored. Is arbitration on the table since this is clearly a labor dispute, or is there
No. There is a process, you know, and the process involves, you know, writing about it to the general secretariat, you know, and escalate on it if needs be, because it can go up to the president. And also after that, setting up a committee that consists of 3 reps from the players and 2 from JFF. So what we have written to say is we are ready to meet, you know. So name your representatives and let's meet and discuss it. The letter was sent by email outlining what the 3 issues are, you know, which were mentioned, and you know we're ready to meet on it.
And the girls aren't.
I wouldn't say that. I'm saying that you know we haven't received the feedback yet, but I'm sure they are. You know, I wouldn't say why not. You know.
Okay, all right. I wait patiently and I'm paying attention to the situation as well because I want to see what the next steps are, and we want this situation to be handled as civil as possible because right now it's not a good look. There was an article printed in the CNN yesterday on everything that's happening in the Jamaica Football Federation and the Reggae Girls, and I think this sheds a bad light on the football
And the country.
Yeah, but the JFF played a part in that though. No, well,
A part in what?
in this whole circus, really, if I'm to be frank, of everything that's happening. Because I think if there were clear channels or clear lines of communication both ways, and so I don't want to say, okay, if the girls were communicating or if the JFF was communicating, both ways, because this could have been handled so much better outside of the public.
So tell me, why you think there weren't channels of communication?
Again, communication works both ways, no? So if the JFF is reaching out to the girls, were you saying the JFF made attempts to reach out to the girls prior to all of this? And
no, but what I've always said is that we were in discussions, right? Because we did mention that the call up was done, right? And we did mention that we discussed the whole thing about, you know, getting some feedback on how the 20% is to be divided, right? All of those were communications in writing. You know, we were talking. So
and based on those communications, were there responses?
Yeah, there were responses, which is why that letter came to us also. So there were responses that was happening, you know. And you know, I did mention to you also that one of the reasons why JFF did not comment is that we wanted to ensure that we're in compliance with the contract, and you know, if there's a grievance procedure, we'll go through that procedure. So you know, when you see that the articles that came out, you know, one of the things I can proudly say is that there was nothing that came out in relation to based on what JFF said. You know what I mean? So
Talkie, big up yourself. Big up everyone in the comment section, as a matter of fact. I think we've been going for an hour and a half straight, asking your questions, as well as a couple of questions that we have as well. So big up everyone in the comment section. And remember, we can be civil about matters, and I think that's where some of us really fall short, because you feel as if you have to argue and you have to get loud and all of that. That's not necessary, right? We can have discussions to shed light on things, and I think that's what our intentions were this evening. So I'll throw it over to the folks in the comment section. Mr. Chung, do you have time for a couple more questions from the folks in the comment section?
Yeah, I go for like about 5 more minutes.
All right, no worries. All right, so folks in the comment section, please send in your questions now. We will ask Mr. Chung your questions, and then afterwards we'll call it an evening. So we're waiting on you to send in your questions now. All right. Realist Cavs. With the, all right, Bala asking if you're proud of how things have been going. Are you satisfied with everything?
Everything like what?
Like with the entire situation right now, the handling. I would say I think you're dissatisfied. I don't even have to ask that. I don't think anyone would be satisfied with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, I never want us to get a situation like this, you know. I mean, you know, everybody should want harmony, should want peace, you know, and should want things to work out how you want it to work out. But, you know, sometimes things just don't go like that. I mean, I'm pretty satisfied with the what we've done in terms of to address it, to get a team there. Because that for me was the most important thing, to have a team playing the qualifiers. So, but I mean, it's of course I would want it not have to be like this. I mean, it's obvious. Anybody who would want it to be like this, then you know, should be someone fighting in Israel. You know, because obviously
I prefer we stay away from the Israel conversation, please. Talati Blake is asking, who is the 24th player? Why was there a 24th player?
Which 24th player?
There was a 24th player mentioned. I think either Rudolph Speed mentioned it or someone else from the delegation, but they said there was a 24th player, and that was one of the primary reasons for the delay in the issuance of the funds, because they had to figure out how the 24th player who had been among the team
yeah, there was a 24th player that was requested by the coach, right? That person was in Australia, but the payment was only done to 23 by FIFA, right? And that had caused some discussion, as Pete said, in terms of hold up. But that person was requested by the coach to be there.
Who was that person, if you don't mind?
I think it was Sashana.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. All right. I have a question here. Are there any outstanding payments for the Reggae Boys?
Yes.
So the Reggae Boys are owed. Can you
shed some light on that? We're working through that with them.
Okay. So can you
just like one of the things you recall that leading up to the World Cup, there was a lot of outstanding money for the girls from last year. But what we have been able to do, right, certainly since I've been there, is pay all the per diem for the matches. Right. So we've been able to pay the per diem, we've been able to pay some of the match fees, right? But there are some monies outstanding, and we're intent that we're gonna deal with those. I've spoken to the boys about it last time the boys were here at a meeting with them, and we're gonna continue that dialogue because we want to pay some money to them by next month, and then obviously if they qualify to Copa America, there's a lot of money coming in, and we're gonna pay them off. If I get that money from Copa, I'm gonna definitely pay them off every single dime out of that, because the commitment that was made to the girls while we're in UK is that we're going to pay them off everything we owe them once we get the prize money from FIFA. So remember, and this is what people don't remember, JFF is in Jamaica. Jamaica is not a rich country, right? And it costs a lot of money. A game for me, when a team comes to a camp or a game, it's going to cost me $30 to $40 million, right? So it costs a lot of money, and we do get a lot of funding from FIFA in particular. And we get some money from CONCACAF. But the truth is that the cost, in many respects, so we do owe the boys money, and we're gonna try and pay them some money next month. We've been dealing with this issue with the girls, and then certainly if they get to Copa, everything is going to be paid up by then.
All right, I'm gonna do two more questions. I hope you don't mind. I have Energy 876 who's asking, what are you guys, and it's alluding to the Jamaica Football Federation, doing to make sure this situation doesn't happen again? Because you mentioned that the boys, there's some money outstanding for the boys. How do we avoid getting to this place that we're currently at with the girls?
Well, I have been dialoguing with them, right, and dialoguing through myself personally. I met with them, meet with the management also. So we've had discussions, and we do try and pay them. The boys have said in recently in the past, hey, listen, for now, just pay us the per diem, and we have been doing that. We have been paying the per diem. Obviously, there are some other monies due to them, and we're seeing how we can pay that down, because understand this also. A lot of the money that we had to deal with was coming from way last year, a long time. So legacy debt has been one of the biggest challenges in the organization, right? But I'm determined that we're going to pay them, and this is why it's important for us. And we're making the investment for them to get to Copa, because once they get there, then we're going to get quite a bit of money that we can just use and pay them off. Because that money is not the first charge on that money when it comes in, is to pay the boys everything that we owe them. That's the first charge on that money. That's going to happen before anything else happens.
All right. Thanks for your answer on that. Someone's asking how much is the boys per diem and how much is the girls. All right. So I have a question on my list here. But the per diem, how much is the per diem for both the male and the female?
No, I'm not going to say that specifically.
All right, no worries. That's fair. All right. So the final question: in your assessment, what would football fans be getting if Raymond Anderson were to be elected president?
I'm not going to get to that.
Well, yeah, you work with him. No, he's a co-worker.
Yeah, but that you're asking me to get into the whole realm of the politics.
No, I don't want you to get into the politics.
No, I can't speak. No, I can't. No, man, I cannot speak on behalf of what leadership someone would bring against somebody else. That question must be directed at the person.
You're not comparing it against anybody. We
know. I can't. That the person who is in question is the person who must answer that.
Okay, all right. We will have him on here then. We will try and have him on here. So So we still have one question to go, and I'll take that one from the comment section, and then we'll call it an easy. All right?
Yeah, man.
All right. So, folks in the comment section, keep your questions coming in, and then we'll pick one of the questions to ask Mr. Dennis Chung before we sign off for the evening. And remember, the per diem, the per diem is out of the question. All right. Folks are curious to find out what the per diem is.
But why are people interested in that? I don't understand. Why are people interested in how much per diem somebody get? It's amazing.
As I said, it's the football fans. They're very curious, and ain't nothing wrong with that. Eh? Okay, so all right. I think this one is gonna be the final one. Hopefully you can answer. I hope, because I think we've had quite a few questions that you weren't able to shed light on. But I think this one has been recurring. Was Paul Hall fully compensated?
Paul Hall?
Yeah. So he was a couple of coaches back, I assume.
Yeah, man. As far as I know, he was. I wasn't here at the time. I don't think I wasn't at the JFF at the time that Paul Hall was here. But as I know, he was fully compensated, yes.
All right. Yeah. So, again, so folks in the comment section, you had your opportunity. You asked your questions. I hope you received all the answers that you were seeking this evening. Thanks again, Mr. Chung, for joining us. And before we go, is there anything you want to say to Jamaican football fans before we leave?
Yeah, man. I do appreciate speaking to people, and I will answer any question I can answer. You know that, right? There are certain things, I don't answer because on a professional level, I don't like speaking about people's contract, their compensation, and that sort of thing, right? And there are certain things you'll ask me, and I'll not answer. And the reason I don't answer is because I need to protect certain things, right? But what I'll say finally is, the senior women's are playing tomorrow, and the team that we have there is always the people who are playing for Jamaica is always the reggae girls. That remember that. So
regardless of the name in the back.
Yeah, regardless of the names, the reggae girls is the team, is the senior national team, and they're playing tomorrow. And I'll ask everyone, to support them. You know, they have a match coming up on Sunday. Support them, because these girls, I mean, they just stepped up to the plate and they're very excited about representing Jamaica. A lot of them are young girls, and I mean, even when we sort out the issue with the girls who went to World Cup, and I'm sure that we will. You know, the fact that these young girls are playing now, based on how they perform, I'm sure that you're gonna find one or two of them that you want to keep in the squad. You know, and mix them, because World Cup is 4 years away, right? So as Hal Grimson said to us earlier this year, um, you know, the fact of the matter is that the people who did the best at the Qatar World Cup are like 21 and 22-year-olds, right? The 18-year-olds now are going to be 22 then. You know, so we have to keep the young people coming in, and we have to go out and support them. So I urge everyone to just, you know, line up and support them. Come to the stadium on Sunday. Support
And
the girls.
it's cheaper Sunday.
Cheaper.
It's
It's cheaper. It's cheaper. It's cheaper. It's
It's gonna be
cheaper.
cheaper, folks. Oh, and before you go as well, I just realized I'm seeing you over on Elite Sports these days on the Ryan LFC. Can I expect to see you over there answering some tough questions in the future?
No, I haven't been there, but the truth is that I haven't been asked to be there. You know,
Okay.
so I haven't been there in a while. So you know, I never shy away from anything. You know, um, just sometimes I get a little interviewed out. You know, there's a lot of requests. You know, but I don't shy away from anything. You know, so.
All right. Again, thanks for being with us this evening, Mr. Dennis Chung. Big shout out to everyone in the comment section. We appreciate all the questions that you've sent in, and we appreciate everything that you kept the conversation going throughout the entirety. We've been here for an hour and a half, and we're gonna sign out for the night. But again, big up everybody. Thank you so very much for being here, Mr. Dennis Strong. Thanks for answering the questions, or at least most of the questions. And hopefully next time when we have you on here, it won't be under these circumstances or on the backdrop of everything that's happening. All right. So hopefully it'll be under more favorable circumstances where we could chat more about football and all that's going well in the football. All right.
Yeah, man. No problem. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So big up everybody. Talk soon. Peace out.